cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey guys, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and we have Bob Savage with us.
Yes, that's me. And I just want to, at the outset of this program today, I just want to put a memo out. Attention news media, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not being moved to in front of the Capitol. And she is not lying on the catafalque. Her body is. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has gone to a higher authority to wear her black robe.
I haven't heard this. So what are they saying?
No, they're referring to her as if she's a living person. That's kind of goofy. Okay. No, you refer to her remains or her body. You don't say that. Yeah, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is just weekend at Bernie's.
She's in the building. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, she's going to Stop and Shop. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Let's have a little class.
Sure. Yeah. It's really important. Words do matter.
Uh-huh.
And the mainstream media specifically has just gotten away with for so long changing the meaning of words, and it's just like in every aspect of life. It's really kind of shameful.
Well, we also have the baby boomer education system, which has been holding sway now for about 35 years, and these people are basically, a lot of them are functionally illiterate. Go on any major TV station or website and look at the writing that's on there. I mean, ay.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, I'll be very honest. Spelling and grammar has always been a struggle for me growing up. Didn't matter what school I was in. I did the Hooked on Phonics program. And
let me try that. Let me try this, Andrew. Did you read a lot as a kid?
I did actually. I
Really?
did read quite a bit. Yeah.
Huh.
But I just, for whatever reason, I struggled with it. It's kind of interesting. Early education, I was behind. And then before middle school, I was actually very much ahead. I kind of skipped reading levels. I went from 3rd grade to 11th grade reading levels in 4th and 5th grade.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, grammar specifically, just always struggled with grammar and spelling always. So, but I will say that and say I still go to news websites and mainstream media sites and I read and I find spelling mistakes all the time. And I got to think, as bad as I am at spelling, for me to catch the mistakes, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, and the confusion of it's, the possessive with the modifier IT apostrophe S versus ITS, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Or the simple ones, where, and where, there, and there. Those I do know the difference between, and sometimes I will find on somewhat prominent websites those basic mistakes.
Yep, they're out there everywhere, and some of the stuff that you read is indecipherable. You have no idea what they're trying to say, even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Ruth, just for clarity, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not doing anything. She's not walking around. She's not breathing. She's not issuing dissenting opinions. She has passed from this world. And so we refer to her remains or her body.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So I know that we got an email here. Do you have a copy of that email?
Yes, Bob? I just happen to have it right here. And this is this falls broadly into the category of, the ongoing COVID soap opera and disgrace, which is afflicting all of our lives. Because what do we have? We have 15 cases in Monroe County right now. In Livingston County, we have had 8 deaths. 7 of which took place in one nursing home back in March and April. Yeah. There hasn't been a fatality from COVID in Livingston County in 13 weeks, something like that. But everything's still shut down. We're still in, quote, finger quotes, phase 4, which apparently means nothing because phase 4 looks pretty much like phase 3, except we can have museums open with a tiny little proportion of the normal capacity, 30% or 25%, whatever it is. But anyway, so we got this email in, and this woman says people need to understand that decisions about testing should be up to doctors, not legislators or schools. The doctors are the medical professionals. So the email goes, my daughter was sent home from school yesterday because she had to poop. She had a stomach ache. That is apparently a COVID symptom now. We went to the doctor for a required by the school visit that cost us well over $100 out of pocket due to a high deductible plan because she had to poop. She got strep tested and COVID swabbed because she had to poop. She cannot return to school until the COVID test, which takes 1 to 7 days, comes back negative, which of course it will, because she had to poop. The icing on the cake is her brother can't go to school for 1 to 7 days until her COVID test comes back negative because his sister had to poop. This is effing insane. Her doctor thinks it's effing insane. Absolutely not blaming school nursing staff. They're just following, quote, protocol, but there is a major problem with this protocol. Also, we'd like to mention that the doctor said Monroe County schools do not have the sibling rule about attending school in a situation like this. So why do we, in this county? This needs to change. This is unacceptable to put kids and families through this when it's absolutely obvious that COVID is not the issue. Write your congresswoman or men, legislators, because this needs to change. And contact your state lawmakers as well. Marge Burns, 138th District, over here in Avon, New York, would be, not 133rd, excuse me. 133rd District will be happy to help you with that, dear listener. But it is ridiculous. I mean, all of these things, every time the government starts cranking out, rulings and opinions and directives that infringe on our personal liberties, you need to be very skeptical and you need to fight these things.
Yeah. Well, and so for me, it's. I think this person brings up a really, really good point, which is legislators should not be the ones making the policies. Healthcare professionals should. And I feel like we see this just time and time again, where these people who have control and have power choose to make decisions that impact the rest of us, but they're making decisions based on things they don't understand, things that they're not professionals in. And health care situations are one of those things. Legislators should be deferring to like a medical association to come up with standards. And it could be the American Medical Association or the this county board of doctors or something like that.
Yeah, you know what? It should be up to the schools. And the schools should get good medical advice, and then they should use that to promulgate the regulations which govern those students. Because then the parents can throw those bums out at the next school board election if the policies that are adopted don't make any sense. But first of all, we don't need to have all these regulations about COVID. The truth has come out about COVID. It is not as lethal for the vast majority of the population as originally thought. It's at one point in time, and you have to put a historical perspective here, it was extremely dangerous for elderly and those with compromised immune function and respiratory problems. We all know what the conditions are. But to just have all of this stuff imposed willy-nilly, arbitrarily. One county has a much more draconian policy than a neighboring county. We have school districts which straddle the Livingston County, Monroe County line. We have Caledonia Mumford. We have Honeyway Falls Lima. They're in both counties.
Yeah, and that's where I think, if we had standards instead of regulations, it would just be so much better. Because say even like Strong Hospital, they come out with their standard of this is what we think would help students be healthy and stop the spread of coronavirus. Then your district could say, you know what, we're gonna go with the strong standard instead of the New York State standard because we don't think the people in Albany know what's going on, but the people in Strong are right here in our community. They're seeing our daily numbers. They know what the risk actually is, and their doctors recommend this. So we're going to follow that. And the school board could adopt that standard instead of having an reaching regulation forced down from a central part of the state. Each area should be able to look at their numbers, look at their cases and their risk, and determine as a community, this is what makes sense for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, it has to be said here, everybody recognizes that this whole COVID situation is totally fraught with politics now. It's all wrapped up in, a Trump derangement syndrome and the megalomaniac inclinations of our governor and a complete lapdog legislature that goes along with whatever he says. It's got to stop.
Yeah. So moral of the story, if you got to poop, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, really.
That's you'll get quarantined.
Just go poop.
Just go do it. Guys, you're listening to Radio Free New York. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about, are we over disparaging the police? So we'll talk about that and more when we come back on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Escape from the everyday to a getaway at Woodcliff Hotel and Spa. Woodcliff features elegantly appointed accommodations, creative cuisine, themed suites, full-service spa Elan, and is Rochester's best venue for outdoor wedding receptions overlooking the city skyline. Woodcliff Hotel and Spa, where the experience is extraordinary. Located in Fairport, call 585-381-4000 or visit woodcliffhotelspa.com.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We have Bob Savage with us, and I want to give you guys a chance to call into the show. Phone number here is 585-346-3000. Once again, it's 585-346-3000, or you can jump on YouTube, search Andrew C. Hollister, or Facebook, search Andrew C. Hollister. Jump on the live stream and comment in. I want to talk a little bit about law enforcement in general. There's obviously been a lot of mainstream media news that has been against law enforcement. There have been obviously a lot of social media, protests, the whole everything. And I think what we're lacking a little bit, and actually let me take one step back. One thing I'll say is I do believe we need change in policy and training, and we've talked about this a number of times on the show. But the other thing that I think is really important is to identify that law enforcement do have a purpose in our community, along with first responders. And what I'm seeing happening, especially over these last few months, is people maybe not giving them credit for the good things that have happened. You know, yes, there have been a number of bad things that have surfaced with law enforcement. However, we need to give credit for all the good stuff that's happening too. And I think that it's really important when we talk about, you know, law enforcement in general. I think that they're not getting enough credit at this point for what they're doing. Certainly bad people doing bad things needs to be publicized, called out, and dealt with. But at the same time, if you look at what law enforcement is responsible for right now, I kind of think that we're asking too much of them, because they're responding to things like medical calls when really maybe we should have medical professionals there.
Well, the problem also is that these are developing situations, such as the Daniel Prude incident in Rochester, New York last March. That was, if you dissect that whole thing, it's a combination of a law enforcement, domestic disturbance, criminal mischief kind of call, along with a mental hygiene arrest potentially situation, and a medical situation as well, because the man was naked lying on a street in Rochester, New York in March when the air temperature was 34 degrees or whatever it was. So, I mean, there's not a bright line that says, okay, this is police work. No, this is EMT work. No, this is mental health. We had, as a matter of fact, I just did, Andrew, an interview of Mike Mazzio, who's the president of the Rochester Police Locust Club, which is the police union. He gave us some interesting facts on that incident, which one was from the arrival of officers on the scene to Daniel Prude being buttoned up in an ambulance and taken off to the hospital. It was 11 minutes. And an awful lot transpired in 11 minutes. It also needs to be pointed out here that there are 1.3 billion unscheduled interactions between police and the general public in enforcement situations every year. 1.3 billion in this country. And the number of these incidents is vanishingly small. So that needs to be put into perspective. And the media narrative that you hear out there is that cops are just like roaming around looking for African Americans to shoot, which is just absurd.
Yeah, and that's why I think is kind of the idea of addressing this, which is I think we're all in agreement that bad things have happened. There are bad people out there, and I'll bring up a quote that I read a few months ago that I think is an important thing for us to digest and think about, which is we shouldn't be writing off bad law enforcement behavior as, oh, sometimes there's bad cops. And because that can be an excuse for the system. And the example that was given is if American Airlines, said, oh, don't worry, some of our pilots like to land, we probably wouldn't want to fly with American Airlines. So following that logic, yeah, we need to adjust our system to make sure that these things can't happen. But I think it's very important that we also have the opportunity to acknowledge the good that law enforcement has done, the good that first responders have done, which is why I want to give people an opportunity. If you guys have like a cool short story that you want to call in with, maybe, law enforcement helped you out, maybe you're a friend or a family member of a law enforcement officer, you just want to give them a shout out, feel free to call in 585-346-3000, 585-346-3000. And this isn't so much about being political, because this isn't really about the politics right now. This is just about the fact that when you pick up the phone and you're in an emergency, chances are you're calling 911. And it's important, I think, for us to realize that those people are showing up. So I just want to throw that out there. I also want to kind of talk a little bit about this idea of defunding the police has a very, what's the right word? It's a very polarizing message for people. And I think that there's a way that people could come together and talk about something that I believe both sides could agree on, which is maybe we're simply asking law enforcement to do too many things. And we do need to find a way to have either an organization, whether independent or volunteer-based or something else, that could handle nonviolent calls, and an organization or a department that can better handle medical calls.
How do you know it's nonviolent, though, Andrew?
Well, for example, I'll give you a good example. Somebody calls and says, "Hey, somebody broke into my home. I just came home. There's nobody here. They broke in hours ago. I need to file a report." That would be an example of like a nonviolent call. Somebody's just calling in and saying this happened, and somebody has to still come out, file a report. Or Kevin actually brought up car accidents yesterday. Car accidents are a good example of like you're in a situation, pulled off to the side of the road, and you probably need medical help, and you need somebody to create a report, but maybe you don't need somebody to show up when possibly a violent crime might be happening on the other side of the city. Well, so those type of calls specifically is what I'm talking about.
Well, my experience with calling the police when there's been a traffic accident, if there's no injuries, basically what they just tell you, what the dispatcher tells you, is report it to your insurance company. We've noted that the accident occurred, so there's a record of it. Thanks for nobody's hurt, everybody's okay. It's just car damage. Okay, report it to your insurance company. Obviously, if somebody's injured, then first responders need to come to the scene. But let's go back to your hypothetical about there's a break-in and you just need a report to be filed. Here's what the problem is. How do you know that the perpetrator isn't hiding in the basement? Yeah, I mean, what law enforcement tells you is if your home's been broken into, don't go in. Call 911.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I don't know. I grew up in the city. We had a lot of break-ins, a lot. So it's kind of obvious. You come home, your window's broken, stuff's missing, nobody's in your home. It's clear that happened like hours and hours ago. Those sort of calls that the police, quite honestly, don't show up to for days. Usually, that's been my experience. Or I'll give you another example. Somebody picked up a brick from the road and threw it through my car window. The police are like, "Oh yeah, we'll send somebody out." Like 6 days later, somebody showed up to fill out a report, which tells me, the officers clearly had a bunch of other really important things to get to. That brick that went through my car window wasn't a high priority. They weren't able to even create a report till 6 days later. If there was like some other either department or organization that could take over that piece, they wouldn't even have to be as trained, and they wouldn't have to, deal with some of those things. It would probably cost us less money and free up law enforcement for law enforcement, not writing up reports for after the fact. And then maybe we don't expect as much from them. Maybe they get better training and focus on very specific things. Just a thought. Guys, you're listening to Radio Free New York. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
puzzled. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center tonight. Fair skies out there, staying kind of mild in the 50s for the overnight hours on your Thursday. Sunshine, I'll mix with some clouds out there, not quite as bright, still warm in the 70s. There might be a small chance close to the lake of a sprinkle late in the day or the evening. We're back to sunshine, beautiful weather on Friday near 80. Sunshine near 80 again on Saturday. Could be some showers moving in by Sunday. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hello, I'm Alan Ginsberg of the A.M. Ginsberg Advisory Group. Hope you're coping well with the changes we've all had to make in day-to-day living during these crazy times. So, now that you've done all your projects, cooked every new recipe you have, and made your YouTube videos, ask yourself, are your financial plans and investments working in today's world? Is your family secure if you die or become disabled? Are the wills you made 10 or 20 years ago still valid today? Now may be the time to evaluate where you are financially and review your estate planning as well. We're available for appointments by phone or Zoom meeting, or we can meet in my office with CDC compliant procedures. Please give us a call, 585-377-4720, or check out our website at amginsbergadvisorygroup.com.
Securities offered through Securities America Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Securities America Advisors Inc. AM Ginsberg Advisory Group and the Securities America companies are separate entities.
The Livingston County Department of Health wants you to know about free, low-cost, and safe ways to receive critical and life-saving health screenings. Health professionals recommend all adults over 50 get screened for colorectal cancer. All women 40 plus receive regular breast exams, and all women over age 21 receive cervical cancer screenings. For more information, visit the Livingston County Department of Health at www.livingstoncounty.us or call the Cancer Services Program of the Finger Lakes at 1-877-803-8070. Free and low-cost options are available for those who qualify. Health providers have put measures in place to keep patients safe. Schedule your life-saving screening today.
Open Door is a great place because it helps you with your whole self. It's not just about the addiction. For me, it's been just getting in touch with that little boy who never really grew up. I don't feel like I have to save him anymore. I can just let him live. I don't have to be afraid. And I can't think of anywhere else I would want to be to do that. It's safe, it's challenging, but it works.
Go to opendoormission.com.
As the word tells us that all things are to be done decently and in order, we all have a desire to be more organized. Get Organized has been helping their clients effectively organize their living spaces with custom closets, pantries, garage storage systems, and more for over 30 years. Get Organized can be reached online at www.closetsrochester.com or by phone at 585-223-3646. Get Organized with closetsrochester.com today.
Music, the universal language of all living beings. Why does music move us to joy or to tears? Experience what artists, producers, and engineers wanted you to hear. Audio Renaissance exists to honor musicians and their art. In these challenging times, the solace of music is more important than ever. Audio Renaissance specializes in high-performance audio gear for discriminating listeners. Phone Audio Renaissance at 334-7676 today.
Hey, would you like to save money on your insurance? We all do. That's why I get my insurance from Lawrence Associates. They save me money on my home, auto, and landlord insurance. Do what I did and give them a call at 227-7500. Lawrence Associates Insurance.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. Got Bob Savage with me. Bob, have you heard of the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act?
No.
No, it's kind of new, and to be honest, I don't know who's going to be able to afford this. I could be wrong, and I understand the reason that this was passed. It will be in effect from now through December 31st of this year, and it essentially requires employers that have less than 500 employees to provide paid time off to employees for a number of reasons. Some could be a family member is in quarantine. It could be your student is getting schooling at home and doing remote learning. And then there's like various other things. But as I was reading about this, at first I thought that this would be something along the lines of what New York State has for paid family leave, where you pay like $2 a week into this insurance policy. And then if an employee needs paid family leave, New York State, from that insurance policy, pulls some percentage of their paycheck and pays it out while they're on paid family leave.
So is this limited to COVID?
So as I'm reading through here, it's kind of. It's basically
it's
because of COVID.
It's interesting. There's a time element. This is effective only through the end of this year, right?
Correct. Yeah. So which it then could be extended. Who knows will happen. But I'll kind of like read the highlights for you. So if you are an employer that has 500 or less employees, which that alone, before we even get into this, why are we exempting employers that have 501 employees or more? It's just why, if this is so important, if government believes that this needs to happen, why draw a line? Why say, oh, you know what? You got 501 employees, you're exempt. You don't have to provide the same benefits that the rest of the country does. Probably because the people with 500 or more employees are making big donations to the people in Congress.
Well, and again, no, wait, is this a New York State rule or is this a congressional rule?
No, this is federal, Department of Labor.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Well, again, the only politicians can come up with this kind of thing. Where they say, well, we're going to have a job creation incentive, and we're going to give any employer who creates a new job $6,000 tax free.
Yeah.
Like a business owner is going to go out and hire a $40,000 a year person he doesn't need to get a $6,000 tax credit. Politicians think this way.
I know. It's why we've had so many failed policies in New York. We're just like sinking in this oblivion because they think somehow business owners can't do math and therefore they'll just fall into these scams. So here's some of the highlights. You have to provide 2 weeks, up to 80 hours of paid sick leave at the employee's regular rate of pay, where the employee is unable to work because the employee is quarantined pursuant to federal, state, or local government order or the advice of a healthcare provider, and or experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and seeking a medical diagnosis, or 2 weeks of up to 80 hours of paid sick leave at 2/3 of their regular rate of pay because they're unable to work because they have to care for an individual subject to quarantine. Same thing based on state, local, or healthcare provider.
Any individual? Or does it have to be an immediate family member?
So it says an individual subject to quarantine. It doesn't say immediate family member. However, it then says, or you could care for a child under age of 18, whose school or child care provider is closed or unavailable for reasons related to COVID, or the employee is experiencing substantially similar conditions as defined by Secretary of Health and Human Services. Then, with those, so you can get up to 80 hours, you can get an additional 10 weeks of paid expanded family and medical leave at 2/3 the employee's regular rate of pay, where an employee who has been employed for at least 30 calendar days, which is not a long time, 30 days we're talking about, if they're unable to work due to a bona fide need for leave to care for a child whose school or child care provider is closed or unavailable for reasons to COVID-19.
What about a child who is the school's not closed, but it's distance learning?
It appears that distance learning is a part of this, which, based on my understanding, which somebody could come out and clarify that this is not the case, but my understanding is if you have a child at home who is distance learning under this new passed law, you can essentially take 12 weeks of paid family leave, first 2 weeks paid at your full rate, or actually, no, I take that back. All 12 weeks would be paid at 2/3 of your regular salary, and you can take 12 weeks off from work. And the person paying for this is the employer.
So this
Government's not doing this.
Yeah, it's not an insurance system like
Nope.
the Paid Leave Act in New York State. This comes right out of the employer's pocket.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's just take a little wander through the unintended consequences of this. What do you think the effect of this is going to be on people who are struggling to keep their business alive, a small business operation? Obviously, that's what this is aimed at. You're trying to pay your bills. You're trying to, keep your head above water with rules that may mandate in your local state jurisdiction 50% or 25% capacity that you're handling customers, and then this gets imposed on you. What do you think is going to happen? That business owner is going to say, "Great, one more burden I have to meet. I'm closing down."
Yeah, and that's
everybody's
exactly
out of work.
it.
You're all fired. Bye.
Yeah, for sure. So I did read into this a little bit more. There are some exemptions for employees for companies that have 50 or less employees. However, you have to prove that this would have a financial impact on your business, either not having enough employees because too many of them left, or that you wouldn't be able to produce your product and service for your customers anymore, or that there would be some other financial hardship by doing this.
Are they out of their minds?
Yes.
In what circumstances? Exactly. A rhetorical question, obviously. But under what circumstances would this not have disastrous financial consequences?
Yeah. And that's just it. You're talking 12 weeks, which is about quarter of a year that you would be paying either a full salary for 2 weeks and then another 10, 3/4 of a salary, or for just straight 12 weeks, you pay 2/3 of somebody's salary without receiving any, for lack of a better term, any value for that towards your business that you can then sell to your customers. I think that, I understand the idea of people are distance learning, their children are at home, maybe they're quarantined, they may need to be home to care for somebody, but that was a government mandate. And we're now asking private employers to shoulder the burden of government regulations. And, not that the government has the money themselves to cover the burden either, because they're clearly out of money. I think that this is a big mistake. It's a big mistake.
Well, it's one more. Look, this is one more argument in favor of we got to wrap up this COVID nonsense. This is not an overarching threat to public health like it was in the spring. It's just not. People are not getting sick. The media keeps on beating the drum of, more cases over here, more cases over there. Cases are people who are testing positive to the presence of the COVID virus in response to a tremendously ratcheted up, oversensitive testing regimen. The New York Times, of all publications, came out with a story that there's a 94% false positive test result going on from the current testing regimen. That means only 6% of the positives that are coming through are really people who are infected and are infectious with COVID-19. And in any case, the way that the virus manifests itself in most patients is not life-threatening, unless, again, they are the elderly, they are infirm, they have compromised immune function, and these are people who would be vulnerable to garden variety flu as well. So we got to stop overselling this thing. And, every store that you walk into, you get barked at about wearing a mask and social distancing all the time. It's this pandemic is being overhyped, and it needs to wrap up so that this country can get back to work. We can get our economy going again. Our kids can go back to school. It needs to stop.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this whole thought and this whole idea that that we can just create regulations and then shift the burden of those regulations on businesses during a time when the economy is not doing well, it's nuts. It's crazy. Guys, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
If you're looking to market and grow your business, make new business connections, and give back to the community in a meaningful way, consider joining the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're the largest suburban chamber in Monroe County, and we offer networking, education, marketing, insurance, and advocacy. You do not need to live or work in Greece to join. Our members come from throughout the region. In short, we're better together, and together, we're moving business forward. Visit greecechamber.org or call 585-227-7272 to join today.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
Back with Radio Free New York and Bob Savage and Andrew Hollister. By the way, a footnote here, Andrew. Walmart has done away with the one-way traffic in their stores on a national basis. So there's a signal that the COVID business is wrapping up.
Huh, interesting. I don't shop at Walmart, so I didn't even know that was a thing.
Well, I don't go there either, but I heard the news story.
Huh, that's interesting. I wonder how they enforce that. They probably didn't enforce it at all. People just probably did whatever they wanted.
Well, we've been to the Galleria Mall in Buffalo, which the whole mall was one way. So, like on the concourse, the second story, if on the east side of the mall was, northbound, the west side was southbound. Big blue arrows and people were ignoring that. And that was a month. That was a month ago.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, I mean, I go to so many places where people aren't wearing masks at all. People are tired of it. They're fed up. They're not wearing the masks. It doesn't seem to really be being enforced. If you go somewhere big, like Wegmans or something like that, you'll see it. People seem to be wearing them a lot more there. But in terms of other places I've been going, I don't really see much of that. And most people, to be honest, seem to be really relieved to see that other people aren't wearing masks, and then they take theirs off too.
On the other hand, there's an awful lot of mask wearing still going on. And I got barked at in Brockport yesterday at the Dunkin' Donuts there. I walked in just to get a cup of coffee, and the young lady who, she's wearing the mask, and I give her my little Dunkin' card, and so she pours my coffee. Says, "I would be better if you were wearing a mask, sir." And I said, "Why? Are you sick?" She said, "Am I sick?" "No." I said, "Well, I guess I don't have anything to worry about."
Yeah.
I don't think she got it, but anyway.
Yeah. It's one of those things, and I will put this out there as well. During like flu season and any other season or any time you're sick, you've got a cold, you've got the flu, you've got something that you could sneeze or cough on somebody and that you're sick.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a nice thing. Yeah, wear a mask, be polite to everybody around you. If you're ill, like that's a great thing to do. That's respectful of the people around you.
Telling
everything.
You, if number one, if I'm sick, I'm wearing the mask. I'm going right to the mask, no problem. I totally get it. And if I'm going to be around a really vulnerable population, like maybe some people in a nursing home or elderly who might have had recent surgery or have been sick recently, I got the mask on. No problem. Yeah. And truth be told, if there's anybody individually, I'm not talking about an institution like a store or whatever, who really is uncomfortable and feels, stressed about being around me, or I can't avoid, I have to be within 6 feet of them, I'm wearing a mask. No problem. I get it. I understand the issue. But as a general rule, for all of us to be walking around with Dr. Fauci's muzzle on is ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's really it. It's just, the idea that people, human beings who have brains and can kind of think for themselves, can identify when it is appropriate and when there's a risk and take that action themselves. We don't need government telling us what to do. We don't. But, one thing I was thinking about over break, Bob, about this Family First Coronavirus Response Act, the one that's going to make employers basically shoulder the burden for the government decisions on coronavirus, basically putting employers in a position where they'll pay 2/3 of somebody's salary for 12 weeks while their children distance learn. I was just thinking how this is going to create a disincentive for people to hire people with school-age children.
Well, sure, of course. And it also is it's going to provide a disincentive to hire anybody at all.
Yeah. Because I can imagine, and I'm sure this is like highly illegal. It would be considered discriminatory, although you couldn't prove that somebody was doing it. But I imagine that as employers are interviewing and creating jobs and stuff, and if they find out throughout the interview process that that person applying has children, they're school age, and maybe those children might be distance learning, that employer and that hiring manager is probably going to sit there and think, wow, we could hire this person, and then in 30 days, we'll be responsible for paying 2/3 of their salary, and they won't even be here working. And I think that that's going to be a side effect of this, that it's going to become very difficult for people to get a job who have school-aged children for no reason other than government just creating more regulations and shifting more burden on the small businesses.
And once again, this points to the cluelessness of lawmakers who have never run a business, and many of whom have never worked in the private sector at all. Chuck Schumer, I'm looking at you. These people believe that employers will take actions which are contrary to their best interests and could actually threaten the existence of their business just to comply with some arbitrary rule that's been handed down by big government. They're not going to do that. I'm sorry, you can't make the economy behave in a certain way or human beings perform in a way that is contrary to their self-interest simply by handing down some edict. They will find a way around it, not because they're evil or because they're, schemers. They're doing it because they have to. They have no choice.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what I envision. So I envision some serious loopholes being created for this. Either one, people just stop hiring people with children, which would be awful. Imagine you're there, you want to provide for your family, you've got school-aged children, and now you can't get a job because employers are worried that if they hire you, that you won't be there for work, but they're still going to have to pay you. So that's the first thing. But then the next thing is, I bet you some of the larger companies, the ones that actually have money, I'm not talking about small businesses because a lot of them, they make so little money. They're not going to be able to do something like this. But I imagine what's going to happen is the larger companies, 300 to 500 employees, are going to start putting daycares in work. And they're just going to hire one person to watch, 80 kids or something like that and kind of stuff them into little cubbies so that they can say that the children have childcare, therefore the staff can't take off from work.
Or an even more, a different expedient and a shorter distance between 2 points here would be simply to whatever the employment threshold is. If it's employers are affected, if it's 100 employees or more, what they'll do is they'll just reduce staff to 99 employees. Yep. Or they'll reorganize their company into independent but related corporate entities that in the aggregate employ 350 people, but each cell employs 99. Yeah. And they get the same effect. You work for company A, you work for company B. They get the same effect as if they were running single companies that are under 100 employees.
Yeah, and I think you'll see that with small businesses, they'll be right around that 50 employee mark. They will just have a hiring freeze, and they will not hire anybody over 50 employees. Or worse, if they're in that neighborhood of, let's say 50 to 60 employees, they're going to just find a way to let go of those 10 employees to put themselves under the threshold.
Yep.
Because they'll save, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, plus lost efficiency on top of that. This would be a terrible situation. And on the flip side, those companies are on that border of the 500 employees. Well, what they can do, they can just add one more employee, and then now they're exempt as well. And so all those people won't get that benefit either way. It's a bad idea. Just terrible. Government's got to get out of the way. Guys, thank you so much for listening to Radio Free New York. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow.